It's weird doing this on Monday, where usually it's a Sunday.
And it's afternoon on Sundays too.
Yes, it is.
It's
always afternoon.
I've been up since 6 o'clock, so I don't know what the heck time of day it is. There you go. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
12-ish noon.
12-ish. There we go.
Central Standard Time.
An ish.
An ish.
That's a big one because she's so
freedom.
Like,
it's free. It's me freeing myself.
Yes.
And that is good because today, what is our topic on? But freedom.
Finding authentic freedom. Finding authentic freedom. And what does that mean? What does it look like? What does it feel like?
Yeah, because I think we hear the word freedom, but that's not necessarily how we're living our life. We hear this word, we go, oh yes, I want to be free, but they don't understand.
I live in the United States. I'm free.
We're not going to, we can get super political right here, but we're going to avoid politics for the most part.
Well, but you have freedom isn't free down on notes.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, in America, we very much use this term like freedom isn't free, and a lot of times it is in reference to politics,
right.
Both currently or past. A lot of times it's in reference to our soldiers fighting, that kind of thing. But the truth is, freedom isn't free no matter where you're at. No matter where you're at in the world.
No matter how free your country is, no matter how free your nationality is, your religion is, you as a person and in your outside physical situation. I mean, because I don't have shackles on. I mean, I'm not walking around in handcuffs.
Not physical, but maybe not physical, but we all walk around with our own
different shackles, different bondages that we put ourselves into, and that I think is what we're definitely going to be talking about today, is how we really do put ourselves in these different chains, and to live authentically free means to just break loose of the chains that we put on ourselves, because the biggest freedom that we have is free will. So through free will, and my favorite statement that I don't know where it came from, I probably stole it someplace, is that we're so free that we can pick our own bondage. We can choose our own bondage. And that, to me, when that came out one morning when I was doing a talk, I was like, oh wow, that's a statement and a half. And it's so true. And we don't realize, we go, like I just said, well, I live in the United States, so I'm free. But am I really?
You're not really free.
I'm not really free.
That's not true freedom. That's not true freedom. And actually, this conscious coffee. This isn't conscious coffee. I don't want to do conscious coffee. That's too early for me to be on camera. Sorry.
I'm breaking open a drink.
But freedom, when you said that on Conscious Coffee, that actually is where this free spirit talk came from, because I heard that, and it is so true that we have been given this incredible freedom internally that is uncomfortable. Freedom is freaking uncomfortable. Everyone says they want it, but in order to get it, you really have to get uncomfortable. And so we choose our own bondage in order to
make ourselves feel safe.
Make ourselves
comfortable.
We are so free that God has given us all this freedom. God does not have us in shackles. God said, you want to be free? Go be free. Enjoy yourself. You have complete free will to do it with what you want. Though he wants us, at the same time, he's not going to put us in chains, so we put ourselves in chains. Mm-hmm. We invite our own enemy or Satan or however you want to call it, into our lives to chain us in different ways, to feel more comfortable, because it is.
As you were saying that, I thought about my Samantha. She's now 22, and if she watches this, she's going to go, oh my gosh, Mom, I can't believe you're bringing me into another one of your talks. But I bring my kids in all the time. But Samantha, when she was like 14, 15 years old, because I parent like God. Oh, that's the title of the book.
Like God,
that's the title of the book. I parent like God.
You do parent like God.
I parent like God. I am not that parent that is, helicopter on my kids. I tell my kids all the time, I give them tons of responsibility, which is tons of freedom. But freedom is responsibility.
Yes.
And I look at it like that. I'm like, you can go do, be, have, explore, and I know you're going to fall down. I know you're going to crash and burn. I know that you're going to go and try to do all this different stuff. So I like open up the gates and go, you know what? Mom already knows what you're going to do. And I put it all out there, and I'm very, very open and communicative with the kids. And when Sam was like 15 years old, she came to me and she was really, really pissed off at me. She was so pissed at me. She's like, Mom, you're wrecking my life. And I'm like, what? Just normal teenager.
Yeah,
thing.
you're like, okay, how am I
you're
going to
wrecking
wreck
my
your
life?
life?
Her next statement was not so normal, though. Her next statement was, Mom, you're wrecking my life because you've made it impossible for me to rebel.
Yeah.
You've made it impossible for me to rebel. And I mean, that's exactly the same case that I think that we have in our life picture, is that we have all these choices. It does not mean that my kids don't go and mess up, that they don't do things that disappoint me, that I go, oh, that was not a smart choice, that they don't get reprimanded for those choices and, have to basically figure out a different path, learn those lessons. Much like us with free will, God has given us the exact same scenario. Like, we have all this freedom, and which comes with great responsibility to learn to make the right choices for ourselves and for the world around us. But it makes it really, really hard to rebel because we have this big, beautiful, awesome, amazing, fun world out there to explore. And is there really, truly right or wrong? That can be debated depending on where you're coming from. But true freedom is the freedom of choice. And that freedom of choice is, again, the internal game.
Yeah, and I think most people really, they say they want freedom, but really they actually do want chains. And they do. They want change, just like Samantha said.
Well, if you tell me what to do, then I know exactly where my boundaries are. I don't have to make that choice for me. So if I do something that isn't right for me or comfortable for me, or I make a choice, then I can point back to that and go, it's your fault. It's your fault because I only did what was within those bounds. Therefore, it's your fault, and that puts us into that victim state.
But then we bitch about that.
Then we
bitch about that, but at the same time, we want that a part of us, not our true core, but our ego wants those chains. I mean, kind of going a little bit off your topic, you say, like, I parent like God. I love my parents, but my parents did not parent like God. They didn't. They did not go free will to the point that I felt so much bondage that I literally had to kind of like break out in a way that wasn't necessarily my true core. And then
because you had to break those shackles.
I had to break those shackles and prove points. And I mean, to the point that I had a severe eating disorder to just prove that I was going to have my own freedom and no one was going to shackle me. But then I ended up shackling myself. Mm-hmm. I wanted so much freedom that I ended up choosing my shackles. And then I had to unshackle myself from that. And I did. But it's like we're constantly going a lot of times from shackle to shackle to shackle instead of really getting in tune with what really is freedom. So my question to you, and then I'll answer it, is
what is... I'm not on the hot seat.
Yes, you are. I was talking, so I get to ask the question next.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a victim statement.
Whatever you want. What's the right answer?
What is freedom to you? When you think, like, what does your authentic freedom look like? What is that to you?
My authentic freedom really is...
And pop in, guys, if you have any thoughts. Please comment. We want this to be a conversation and not just Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Wow. That's it. We're buying Tweedledee and Tweedledum costumes. I have a cat and a cow in the closet. If we need, we can take a time out and dress up.
All right. Freedom. I don't want that. That's bondage to me. Keep moving.
I have handcuffs around here, too.
I'm sure you do.
Padded ones.
Uh-huh.
No, freedom to me is about choice. It's freedom of choice. Freedom of to basically be able to make it. Whether it is a good choice or a bad choice, it's my choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what ultimately I believe freedom comes down to. It's not even, even if I was in a prison situation, I still have freedom to make a choice in a prison situation. What if I was somebody else tried to imprison me in different ways and take away my freedom, which we do experience in so many ways in our world, all over the place. People are being put into bondage that they did not necessarily ask for, or they didn't see coming in different ways. We do this bondage in relationships and jobs, in the places that we live, all these different, our health can be a bondage to us, all this different stuff. But the one thing that nobody can ever take away from us, if we are willing to embrace it, is the freedom of choice. Yes. And that means the freedom, not necessarily the freedom of choice even in what I'm going to physically do, but in how I am going to react to anything that is presented to me.
Yes, I very much agree. I actually was reading something a while back, and it was about a Holocaust survivor. And they were talking about how even in a concentration camp, they never lost their freedom, because internally they're like, they can't make me feel anyway. I get to choose how I feel. I get to choose my thoughts. And that is freedom to me. When I think of freedom, I think of, yes, there is the freedom of getting to make the choices you desire to make, but also freedom internally of getting to choose what you're thinking and choose to follow your heart, or to choose to think the thoughts you desire to think. And this, in kind of going back to the freedom isn't free a little bit, that's not free. That doesn't just come to us. We don't go like, oh, now I'm going to be happy and go lucky, especially not where in our lives today. There's so much negativity. So there's a cost to that. There is a cost. There's a cost of relationships. There's a cost of people viewing you a certain way. There's a cost of having to kind of be uncomfortable.
It comes down to, and I know you've heard me say this a million times, because I always talk about eagles and blackbirds, and what we use in the United States, the eagle is our mascot, right? Like, this is and why do we use the eagle as a country mascot? Is because they're awesome. Because they are truly a symbol of freedom. Yes. They fly above the storms. They fly above. They do not settle down with all the other birds. They have sight that is beyond any other. They see at great distances. They really do avoid all this different stuff because they fly above it. That right there is nothing more than a picture of what we can do internally in freedom, because if we act as eagles internally, spiritually, mentally speaking, from that emotional mental plane, then we are flying above, because it's the choice to react however, the best possible reaction to any situation, versus the blackbirds who sit that, there's plenty of people that want to go shoot the blackbirds. They all sit on power lines. Yeah, they crap all over the place. They make a racket. We basically look at them as pests, right? And they just congregate, and they're just all over the place, and they're bouncing around the parking lots and everything. But they're always together. They always flock together. Now, you could say birds of a feather flock together, all this different stuff. But really, it's true freedom. And when you're setting yourself free internally, it does set you apart from the norm. I know somebody.
You keep talking.
So yeah, so it sets you apart from the average and ordinary, from the norm. It's really interesting. I'm doing another talk tomorrow, and I think that the topic is kind of similar. We've been discussing topics, and it was kind of like not being in the average and ordinary, breaking away from the norm, and being, just that rule breaker. Which rule breakers are freedom thinkers. Typically.
Yeah.
And it's because you just don't want to be in bondage in different ways.
So, but I think that I want to read the comment we got, but I think a lot of people think that freedom has to be this big, like, F you, like, kind of like sticking your middle finger up in the air, kind of like anarchy kind of thing. And that's not the case. That's not true freedom. That is not what I I look at it as authentic freedom unless it is truly something that is in alignment with your soul. And a lot of people I see going right now, I'm going to go against this just because I feel like
it's the rebellion.
It's like the rebellion. It's a teenage rebellion, but it's not true freedom.
Right.
It's not true freedom. It's not true alignment. And so a lot of people think it is this like FU mentality. And I view that actually as very bonded. That it's very like, those are chains. Like that anger, that like, feeling that brings up when I think of like that big FU kind of feeling. That's not coming from a place of heart freedom. That's coming from a place of, like you said, teenage rebellion. And so it is tapping into your core and finding where the true freedom is. And yes, that might be ending up having to kind of push against something. But pushing against something just to say you pushed against it
is not freedom. No. Freedom is being bold, but it's not.
Yes.
But it's not going against something just to go against something to try to make some sort of point. You know, I lived up in Seattle for 9 years, and we lived on Capitol Hill, which was the hill that anybody who was exploring their different sexual aspects or multiple colors of hair or dress, you name it, all these different practices were on Capitol Hill. It was a very, very fun place to live. But walking the streets up there and everything, I often looked out and I realized that so many people were still basically in this bondage. I used to look at them like, that person's not really that, you know, they're not going to keep their green hair and they're this and they're that and be partying the way they are, even though they were expressing themselves, and it was beautiful to watch.
And there's some exploration. Yeah, and exploration is great.
And that's that. I think that we all kind of do that to figure out who we are.
Yes.
But as we're doing that, coming into like what you're saying is that alignment, because we don't necessarily need to do this or anything that is just, you know, what we would say is the average picture. We don't have to not look average, act average, have an average job, an average house, an average relationship. But, you know, it's to like be free, because it's, again, coming back to in here, how are you feeling about things? How are the choices that you're making for yourself, and the emotional stance? I think that the really biggest part is, can you be free from that victim mindset?
Yes.
Because we live in a world that is so victim based.
Yes.
All right.
I want to read Mary's. Freedom is being able to be who I am in any situation, saying and doing exactly what I want and what I feel openly without someone being offended, because they know this is me and who I am. So I would agree with all of that except for the being offended. And I say that because there's a lot of times that
I know where you're going. Go for it.
Well, no, I think I offend people all the time these days, and I didn't used to. I was like and I still am at times. Screw you. Sometimes I still am very much like I have such a big heart that I don't want to do anything that is going to cause negative emotion. And that is my work that I've gotten along
so my question there is, can you actually make somebody else feel
No, you
good
cannot. You cannot. You can't. You can never. Okay. No, you cannot.
I know you're going there.
It's the truth. Like, you can't. But, like, for example, so I actually this week I posted a video on our workshop that we did last weekend on blowjobs. And yes, I said the word blowjobs. And somebody got really, really offended.
You just offended me.
Well, you know, tough shit. But really, they got really offended. And a lot of times I put out articles that offend people. And it really is me being free. And I don't write things. I don't do workshops just for shock factor. I do them because they really are in alignment with what I want and what I believe.
And there's certain things that need to be said and expressed.
Yes.
And so many people are afraid to say and express truth or their version of truth. And if we keep our mouths shut, or our fingers from typing or from doing things like this in fear that we're going to offend somebody else, then we're actually doing a humongous disservice to the world around us, because we're not sharing. And my whole take on it is that if somebody else is offended, that is truly their shit, not
It
mine.
is.
It is that's their game. And if they want to go ahead and give me their power, because that's what they're doing, is they're pointing the fingers and they're blaming, and that means that they are turning over their power to you. So if you're offending somebody, realize that they're giving their power to you, and now that you're basically their boss. And here's the thing, you don't have to choose to be their boss. You can say, thank you, no thank you, stop being a victim, and, you know, man up over there and just go be you, because I can't make you, unless I like have a baseball bat in my hand and I ask you to go boom with it. Now you're going to feel physical pain.
Yeah.
But you still can choose how to react about that physical pain.
Yes.
And that's the whole thing. It's like, you could feel really offended that I just hit you with a club.
And I probably, I honestly probably would.
But
that would be my shit. That would be me dealing with.
You could then just go, hey, Kendall, that really was not nice.
Not
and
cool.
I don't appreciate
Not cool.
that.
Cool,
Kind of
Kendall.
like the French fry thing. Yeah. But
Yeah. We won't go there. But you're right. I mean, you can't make anybody feel a certain way, and there is freedom. So, again, it's not about saying things or doing things just to piss somebody off or make this like bold statement just to.
If you're trying to be an asshole, and then you're being an asshole.
Yes.
But if you're
and
doing
that's not
it
freedom.
just to
That
be
is
open and you know, just state your truth, then yeah. If the intent behind it is a good intent coming from love and coming from sharing, then it's a good intent. If it's an intent to control or change, then it's not a good intent. And that's basically the only, I mean, you either got, you know, fear or love. Which one are you operating from? I mean, that's where you always come to. So
yeah.
You're off to read a quote, aren't you?
Well, let's see. No. Oh, well, actually, yes. So this one's by Osho. True freedom is always spiritual. It has nothing to do with your innermost being, which cannot be... It has something to do with your innermost being, which cannot be chained, handcuffed, or put into jail. And I think that kind of goes back to what we're saying about it really is at our core. Freedom really does come from a place of at our core. And so it is, how do we put this into our life? Because that's great. Like, we go like at our core, you know, but I think this is really where, I know like in the morning, one of the best ways I can find my freedom is journaling, like what I really desire. Because that gets me in tune with my heart, and that gets me in tune with my genitals and my other chakra systems and all. And it really allows me to see from that kind of eagle perspective of what would freedom be like to me. Where am I needing to let go of certain things and allow certain things? And where am I still chained? Because we are all chained in a way. We are all chained. Mm-hmm. And so it is finding out where you have put the chains on yourself.
And journaling is a fantastic way. I mean, we both journal in the morning, so I journal every single morning. I get up, I do my conscious coffee, I do, I do my gratitudes, then I do some form of conscious coffee, or if it's a weekend, then I'm with my family and everything. And then shortly after that,
so conscious coffee then?
As kids wake up, I snuggle babies and stuff. Yeah. But then as I move into my journal time frame, and I sit there and I journal, and what I notice is that my personal chains actually change every single day.
Yes.
Because I write down a lot of the same stuff over and over again, because I'm trying to create a new pattern for myself, because I want to draw these things into my life. So I know that the more I can emotionally connect to them, the more sound I am in them manifesting in my life. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed over the course of like the last year, as I'm journaling some of the same stuff over and over, that some things I wake up and it is oh my gosh, it's like nails on a chalkboard to write it out in my journal, because I'm just like, oh, and it's making me sick. I'm like, wow, girl, you are not aligned to that right now at all. I still write it down because I'm determined to get it written down, but it really helps me recognize that I'm blocked up in that area, which means that I'm chained in some way. I'm restricting myself. I'm preventing that from happening. And where other things are just like happy to flow out, and I just like all bubbly, like, oh yeah, yes to it.
And that is, I would almost say that is where for you, like, freedom isn't free. Because the part that isn't free is now you have to go and do your work.
Right.
Because otherwise you're not going to find freedom in whatever that specific statement was. And I know they've changed, because they change for me daily too. It's like, oh, like this was great yesterday, not so much today. Yeah. But I think that is where it's not free. And because there is a cost. There's a cost of effort and time and internal work.
You have to have the desire to have the freedom, is what it comes down to. And you have to have the belief that you are worthy of freedom. And if you don't have those two things, and that's where that internal struggle really comes in, is that we have worthiness issues. Every single one of us. And I know that, like,
I have no worthiness.
I've done a lot of talks recently on worthiness. I wrote that article on worthiness. All this different stuff keeps coming up. It just keeps coming up because, in truth, I've been dealing with different worthiness things. So it's coming out in different ways. So I'm preaching to everybody else exactly what I need to hear that I know is true. But because I'm coming up against this wall, and it's like, dang it, like, I know what to do. I know how to get around it. But it comes down to that the freedom isn't free, right? So it's doing that work. Just
even when you don't feel like doing it.
And I don't feel like doing it every day. I just don't.
And sometimes it's okay.
That's when you just book a flight and go to the beach. Sorry. I have the beach on the mind. Sorry. See, I'm all bright and colorful. I got beach.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I do. I fuck yes. No, that's freedom. But it is, I think also it's finding those places in your life where you really actually do feel free. Because we're always chained in certain areas. But the more we focus, so if you spent your entire day focused only on that one thing that you wrote that made you go, ugh, then the rest of your life is going to be different.
Horrible.
Yeah.
My whole week would be...
None of those other things are going to come to pass either.
It is like sending an anchor down or just, just parking your boat on the shore, and it is way up there, and there is like the tide just never comes back to pull you back out. It is just that, like, you really get stuck in it. And that's where that desire to be free has to come in, because if you don't have the desire, then you're not going to have the determination to do the practices to get yourself back out and going, so that you can actually have those, have that freedom. Because otherwise, you sink yourself.
And my thing is to really focus. Like, yes, you find your places where you aren't free and you do your work. And then you focus on the stuff that really actually you do feel free and you do feel... And that's going to be, again, different depending on where you are, the season in your life, or the week, or the moment. But really focusing in on the parts of your life that you're like, no, this actually makes me feel really free, whatever that is. And I think that is how we begin to make steps forward, because once we really get in alignment and we get that feeling of freedom, it is contagious. We were like, oh, well, now I want more of that feeling. I want more of that feeling.
More flavor. More flavor.
Yeah.
It's like, yes.
And then we get to that point where it's like, oh, well, I want that. That's hard. Then we have this just
resistance that comes up.
But we start to be able to push through that resistance more, because we're like, but this feels amazing over here. So I know that if I just do this, if I just put this, and I don't like the word effort, but this focus in on healing these pieces of me, then this area can be just as free and amazing in my life. So it's a constant process. I think that's really, really where it's at.
It is a constant process. I think that, finding what's, like, we both journal, we have gratitudes, there's different things. You brought up play and focusing on the positives, but it really is that for anybody who watches this, I would like for them to know, if you don't feel free, if you feel stuck, if you feel like you're in quicksand in some area of your life, that it doesn't have to be that way. You're literally a decision away from getting out of that quicksand. And the way through that is to focus in on the good stuff in your life, so that you can start getting more good stuff. Because here's the thing, anything we apply focus to grows. Mm-hmm. So if we want more positive events in our life, if we want to have, you know, more things, then we need to focus in on those positive things. That's why I do gratitudes every single day. I do gratitudes front end of my day and the back end of my day, because I know that the more I focus in on the things to be really grateful for and to hold an appreciation, that the God, the universe, is going to bless me with even more things on that. It's just like all of a sudden you get this like snowball effect going, and then it's like, oh wow, I'm the luckiest person on the planet. It's because you've created your own luck.
Look at how blessed I am. Look at how
right. And then, you know, living in that energy of that, because that blessed energy, when you have things coming at you and you're magnetizing it to you, I mean, quite literally, what is it? It's the law of attraction, right? Attraction, that means magnetizing it to you. So when you're doing that, then you can't help but just kind of feel elevated and more exaggerated even. I know I probably drive people crazy half the time because I go, it's like, slow down. Like, how much coffee did you have today? 1 cup. You know, it's like, maybe you should give up coffee. I'm still the same way. But it's that, because it's that excitement for the day. I wake up excited about my day. I don't get out of bed going, oh God, it's Monday.
And if you do, and not you, but if you do, that's when you really need to get into gratitude. Like, even on the way over here, and I was actually feeling good today. I was just like, I'm going to just add some extra gratitude. And I just went on a gratitude rampage. Yep. I was like listening to some Abraham Hicks. His video ended, and I was like, I just feel like doing a gratitude rampage. And so you don't have to be feeling down in the dumps. But if you are, that's also a great time for you to go like, okay, let me focus in on my gratitudes, because that is a feeling of freedom when you really can note.
And here's the thing, because I've been in those shoes where if somebody told me, "Oh, focus on your gratitudes," I would have.
Yes.
I would have been like, all right, we're gonna have a talk.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing in my life, and I know that you've had that. I mean, we both experienced deep, dark, nasty depression in our past, and coming through that. So there's those moments where you just
can't get into gratitude.
No, you can't get into gratitude. And even the thought of like, oh, well, just be grateful that there's air in your lungs. You're going, well, I'd rather not.
Right now, I don't want air in my lungs.
Like, you know, like why is God making me live? That kind of thought. Because I've had that thought. I've had those feelings where it's just like, I'm not grateful for the air in my lungs. I'm not grateful for the roof over my head. I'm not grateful for the food on my table.
Not grateful for your children.
I'm not grateful. Like, no, I'm not grateful for this. I'm not. And, you know, in those moments, really what it comes down to is getting angry. That's what I come back to that, because that is like my saving grace of depression, is that I finally got angry. I got so pissed off because I was so depressed and things weren't changing, and goodness, nobody would help me, and nobody would do what I wanted, and nobody really cared, and everybody had an answer that I didn't really like or want, and so I got really, really angry. But that point, guess what anger did? Anger was freeing. Anger was freeing.
It was better for you than the depression.
Right. It brought me up in an energy that now I was going, oh yeah, well, blah, blah, blah,
I'm going to show you.
Right. I went into I'm going to show you mode, which actually got me into a state of more desire.
That adolescent rebellion.
Yes. And thank God for that adolescent rebellion.
We all go through it multiple times.
Yes. And from there, I just went up and up to that point where I could start to have gratitude. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, okay. Now on this side of it, okay.
But even in that place of deep, deep depression, we are free to have that too.
Yes.
We are free to have that as well. I mean, God really said, like, you have full freedom. Go for it.
I look back at my depression and different things that have happened in my life, and I go, yep, I pretty much chose to hang out there. I chose to hang out there. That was me doing that to me, nobody else. And I can say that from where I'm at now. When I was in it,
it did not feel like that.
No, it did not feel like that at all. Then it was like, why is this happening?
and you know, it is. So I think we focus very much on like so singular, because it is an inside job. Like you always say, it always is an inside job. But there always is looking at other people. And I am one to, I look at other people and go like, I want their freedom. How do I get there? How do I move towards that? So find somebody in your life where you're like, wow, that I see that person has the freedom I desire. So how do I get one step closer to that even?
Get yourself a freedom crush. A
Freedom crush.
A freedom crush. You see, freedom crush.
We just
Yes,
make
find
shit up
freedom
all the
crush.
time.
Yeah. Don't you see all these like little beams hanging down from heaven right here? Just grab one and see what it says. There's like little notes hanging on all these little strings here. I know they're imaginary strings. I've been smoking something. Not really. I don't do anything like that. But
I know you don't. But
I don't need it.
yeah.
Water's good.
But yeah, I mean, God has given us freedom. He desires us to love Him and want Him and be in a romance with Him and be in this state of freedom, but a choosing of Him. But He doesn't want to chain us either. So
no, and you have actually from Galatians chapter 5 verse 1. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm, then do not let yourselves be burdened again by yoke of slavery. I mean, that's exactly what is your yoke, right? What is the yoke of slavery that you're choosing? And you know, this is not just speaking of actual yokes. It's the internal yokes that we put on ourselves. So, and God does not want us. I mean, truly, the desire there, at least my belief is, and from every spiritual study that I have ever studied from world history and world religions, is that God wants His people free.
And I think, I mean, this is a little off topic. I think that is why a lot of people look at religion in such a very harsh kind of like, we do this and then we do this and we do this, because they're putting their own bondage, their own chains on freedom, because it makes it or not freedom.
That form of freedom becomes a duty. Which
then
is
it becomes a duty. Then
bondage.
Yes, it's a whole nother bondage. So really look at what your beliefs are, and this is kind of maybe do this over the next day or two. Really look at like your beliefs about God or your higher power and what freedom, what they desire for you, or what
and where
your spirit desires freedom-wise.
And where are you turning over your power to outside sources as well? I mean, because really, there's only really one source. God, the source of God, and working through us, which then we are putting out to the world, because we're all we could say that we're all fingers of God, right? Walking around here. We're all little sparks. So it's God's spark energy that we hold inside of us, and we're working through that. But how are we giving that away? So look at your life and look to see, where are you being the victim in your life and preventing yourself from having freedom by turning over your power to some outside source.
And then not beating yourself up when you see it.
Yeah, because we all do it.
Yeah. So it's just working through it.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's all I got on freedom. I'm feeling pretty free of this topic now.
Free of this topic.
Okay. Next. So yeah. Before we go off, because I don't mind doing shameless promos on my videos.
Okay.
We have a Tantra 201 class coming up if you're in the DFW area, or if you're flying into the DFW area. That is April 7th. So please join us. It's going to be an amazing evening of connection, getting in touch with your soul, getting in touch with other souls. So please join us. It is going to be amazing. As always, we still have our women's retreat coming up this summer. You can find that on either of our personal websites or hearmeroar.com. So please join us for some of these things and really step into really more alignment, because both of this workshop and this retreat are both you stepping more into your freedom, yourself, and just deepening your connection. So please join us.
Yes. Well.
And share this video, please. Please.
Like, comment,
share.
tag a friend, and share it.
Yes.
Sharing's the best way to support.
Yes, because Facebook is being...
Yeah, Facebook's still working on
bondage.
Their algorithms for all of us. They're hopefully going back. They claim they're going back to their old way of doing things, but it's not there yet from what
Yes.
I can tell from my views and everything. It's not quite there. So sharing it definitely helps us. If this video touched you in any way, and you just go, or you think of somebody that might need to hear it or whatever, please just hit that little share button right down there, okay? And give us some love that way. Before we go, I do see that somebody just popped up something.
Do you need to have taken the first Tantra class before taking the one?
No.
Anybody is welcome to the Tantra 201 class. So we'll go over a very, very brief overview of some of the things we covered in the first one, but it is a completely different class, and so you are totally welcome.
So, fantastic question. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in a week or so.
Yes.
So,
Okay. Blessings, everybody.
bye, everybody.